decision. Stay with us, we'll be right back, everyone. Let's move on now and get the conversation going. You heard from Professor Patu Tomi. I'm now being joined by the senior advisor to the President, Muhammad Buhari, Mr. Femi Adesina. Thank you so much indeed for coming. Happy New Year.
Thank you, same to you.
It seems you're taking after your principal by wearing white. Seems white is the new. Although things are not really looking white, considering that white meaning peaceful, because considering those who are on the street looking for fuel. And it's ironic, isn't it, that this government is still talking about subsidy 7.5 years down the line, isn't it?
Well, it's a phase the country must pass through and has passed through. And that phase is coming to an end. You have heard the government say, you have heard the Minister of Finance reiterate that subsidy payment will stop by June. And of course, that date was not just picked haphazardly. That month was not just picked from the blues. It had been planned. When the PIA kicked in, there was an 18-month window also opened for subsidy removal. And that will come by June this year. It's a way Nigeria must go. I have not seen any of the major contenders for presidency that has said he will retain fuel subsidy. It's a way Nigeria must go.
I mean, it does look to me that fuel subsidy is like a devil in the mix. And how, I mean, the question I ask is how it has come to stay for 7.5 years in the life of this government. And in the first place, it will stay for 8 years. This government will not remove it. This government leaves in May. It will go in June. Yes. That means for 8 years of this government, subsidy existed.
Yes, because you need to balance between economic sense and social sense. Removing fuel subsidy makes a lot of economic sense, but does it make all the social sense? And you know that President Buhari is somebody that looks at the social sense of whatever he will do. That's why he has not beaten the bullet on removal of fuel subsidy over the years.
So anybody that is thinking of removing it is not probably thinking of the social sense?
No, the time has just come.
For it to go?
Yes, the time has come for
I mean, what then happens? Because the president does not think subsidy was right before he got into office.
Yes, yes. In the beginning, his position was that what was subsidy really? But over the years, it became evident that the country was bleeding, the economy was bleeding, there was a lot of hemorrhage which needed to be stopped. And the time came, and that time is now.
You realize that subsidy may be fraudulent?
Well, that was the argument. I remember that Professor Tam David West, God rest his soul, who was a former oil minister, used to say that there was nothing called subsidy. The president also many times challenged the people, educate me, what is subsidy? And he was an oil minister before too. But then, over time, it became evident that the country was hemorrhaging and something needed to be done.
Let me, in fact, quote your principal, the president, when he said, I do not understand the Nigerian economics who are over the issue of subsidy. He asked the question, who is subsidizing who?
Exactly.
He went further to say, if anyone is saying is subsidizing, is a fraud. That is what the president said pre-2015.
Yes, that was the position. And like I told you, even Professor Tam David West, who was a former oil minister, also held that same position.
Was it that the president didn't know enough before
he was an oil minister.
So that's the question.
He was an oil minister, so he knows enough.
So
But then things had mutated over the years between the time he was an oil minister, between the time Professor David West was oil minister, and now. Now it has become very evident.
If the president, who was a former minister of petroleum and who is still the minister of petroleum, and perhaps the longest serving minister of petroleum in the history of this country, said at some point that free subsidy is a fraud, can one say that that fraud has existed and stay sort of a corruption that this government has been unable to fight?
Well, the truth that nobody can deny is that that fraud has stayed for so long.
Why is it difficult for a government that says they want to fight
Yes,
corruption?
I told you, economic sense and social sense.
Does it make sense to Nigerians, though?
Oh, yes. Yes. Economic sense and social sense. You know that each time there is an effort to fight the fraud in the subsidy regime, you have to contend with labor. You have to contend with the people.
Even when it is fraudulent.
That's it. That's the social sense of it.
The point I'm making, Mr. Adesina, I don't know if you are saying it, and I'm asking, these are the words of President Buhari before he got into office. He says it is fraudulent.
Not even,
and
you are quoting pre-2015 there.
I remember he has been a minister of petroleum.
I remember an interview he granted in London in 2016. He said the same thing, that he believed it was all fraud. And he is still right, even now.
It's still fraudulent.
Oh, yes,
so
he's still right.
So you're buttressing my point, Mr. Adesina. The point I'm making is that if you say, Mr. Adesina, that you have a rat in this room right now, and you are a master of killing rats, and 7.5 years you are not able to kill the rat, does it put a question mark on your ability to get the job done?
Permit my language. It is said that when a fly perches on a very sensitive part of your body, and you want to take a sledgehammer to kill that rat, you have to be careful. The fly may go away, and you end up crushing that sensitive part of your body. So the government needed to weigh its options very carefully.
So politically, the government could not remove it?
It was the social consequences of it that the president was mindful of.
It takes me to the question of if subsidy is ongoing and yet there are a few queues on the roads, not of some, in Bayelsa, in some part of Delta, in part of the north, in Kano, and in some other, fuel is selling almost double the price of the pump price. That is official pump price. You see a lot of queues in Abuja and in Lagos causing unending traffic logjam. So if the subsidy is still ongoing and yet we are seeing this, doesn't make sense.
That is why the entire country has come to the realization that that regime, that regimen must change. It must change.
Does it resonate with what Prof said about the handling of the economy under the Buhari government?
No, I wouldn't want to weigh in on that at all, because one thing I've observed about economists is that they go in different directions.
He said they are bad managers of the economy under this government.
That's his opinion. He has a right to it. But economists always go
What is the opinion? I
directions.
watched the documentary of President Buhari. It does look like, for those who have said good things about him, even him as a president seems to have uttered some words of frustration about how much of love and passion he has for this country, but the result perhaps have not been commensurate to the performance.
No, not exactly, because you wouldn't expect the president to start praising himself. There's a saying that when people praise you, it sounds sweet, but when you praise yourself, it stinks. So President Buhari should not.
So, but the question I'm asking, and perhaps trying to link them up, is the fact that when you say you are going to remove subsidy is fraudulent. You kept it for 8 years. You said you're going to fix the economy. The economist that left said that there's been a failure, colossal failure under this government. You said you're going to fight corruption, and I've asked you a few questions on corruption now. You said it's difficult to do that. How then would you rate, if you are being unable to do all of these things, based on what your critics are saying and what is evident to Nigerians, how then would you rate yourself as a government?
Well, you know I'm a part of this government.
That's what I'm asking.
I then shouldn't be doing the rating. It's like an incestuous relationship. I shouldn't be doing the rating. Outsiders should do the rating.
Would you say that your government has done well?
It's the same question I've answered that you have asked in another way.
Yeah, because you have not answered it quite well. So because at some point, you should, if you leave the exam hall, you should be able to say to yourself, you did well, even if the result doesn't come out well.
I'm repeating that other people should judge the government, should judge the administration.
So for those who criticize that this government has been a failure, what do you say to them?
They have a right to their opinion.
No, those are some of your typical answers. Find another one tonight. What would you say?
That typical answer remains true now, tomorrow, and forever. It remains true that people will always have a right to their opinion.
So the opinion that this government is a failure,
it does not make that opinion right.
Would you say that all of those things that your government wanted to achieve has been able to achieve?
No government achieves all that it wants to achieve. I've never seen that government in the world.
You say you're going to fight corruption?
Even President Biden recently admitted that not everything they wanted to achieve had been achieved. So,
let's look at the 3 points that you said you want, things you want. Corruption.
No, the order is, we call it S-E-A, security, economy, anti-corruption.
Security.
So, security.
From 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself in security?
No. I think it's a simplistic way to look at it. The thing is that, where were we in 2015 when this government came? Where are we today? It's better that way. In 2015, you and I, every Nigerian was running helter-skelter because insecurity, particularly insurgency, was at the very door of every state, of every city. Is it the same today? No, it has been beaten back a lot. There is a huge difference between where we were in 2015 and where we are today. Ask people in the hotbed areas of insecurity, particularly insurgency, in Borno, in Yobe, in Adamawa. Ask them, they will tell you that there is a huge difference between 2015 and now. That's security. Then, economy. For going to 60 years, Nigeria had paid lip service to diversifying the economy. It never got done. But as we speak, Nigerian economy is diversified.
How?
It's diversified.
How?
Look at our GDP. Oil that used to account for 70-80% of GDP accounts for less than 10% now. But other things like agriculture, like services, like ICT, contribute more to the GDP than even oil. It shows you that the Nigerian economy is diversified. But what are we to show for it, even if it's diversified? It's a beginning. It's a beginning. The important thing is that the Nigerian economy is not mono again. We used to have a mono economy that was only dependent on oil.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Adesina. And because you are on this side some years back, sitting on that other side might be difficult. Taking a leaf from journalism.
It just gives me a wider perspective. And I tell you, in some months now, I'll be on what you call that side again.
But now that you are on that side, I know that you're a very fine journalist when you are on this side. But truthfully, what legacy would you say your principal, Muhammad Buhari, if there is one legacy that is going to be leaving behind, what would that be?
One, he met a country that was in tatters, that you weren't sure would still be together in 1 week, in 1 month, in 2 months. Today, he has held the country together. And the semblance of security that you have can't be compared to what subsisted in 2015. It kept Nigeria together. And things are looking up, things are getting better.
When someone like President Obasanjo said, we are moving from frying pan to fire.
Well, President Obasanjo has a right to his opinion. We know his opinion. We respect him as a person, but we don't agree.
Even when he rendered his opinion for the president becoming president in 2015 against the sitting president at the time.
Well, yes.
His opinion was his opinion, and it helped the cause of your principal at that time.
It served its interest there. But later, in the course of the administration, maybe some interests he had were not realized. And he moved to another side. Remember that he was against the president coming back in 2019. The president won with a wider margin in 2019 than 2019.
Do you think there's something that the president could have done that he's not been able to achieve?
It will always happen. in every sphere of life.
For example, in areas of appointments, his critics have said it was nepotistic. In areas of uniting Nigeria.
That is what will always subsist in this country. There will always be talk of nepotism in this country. But one thing I can assure you about President Buhari is that what the Constitution requires in terms of federal character, the president is very scrupulous about it. If the Constitution provides that every geopolitical zone must be represented in these appointments, he's very finicky about it. If the Constitution says there must be a minister from each state in the country, he's finicky about it. But there are some other appointments that are subject to presidential prerogative. Then he can do those ones.
Did you ever regret taking this job?
No. No. I came to serve a man I had admired since he was a military leader in 1980.
So this was a dream job for you?
Yes, I had always said it before I came into government that I'm not a government person. I will never serve any government in Nigeria except the one headed by Muhammadu Buhari. So when he came in and I was invited to serve, I was happy.
And you will never do that again?
No. I mean, not in this capacity. Not in this kind of assignment I've done. You do it once in a lifetime.